This was supposed to be kind of a streaming 101 / into retro games. So I am joined here by my wonderful fiance. Her name is Allie, or Shraiku. And then I'm also joined by my team community manager. His name is Barry. So say hello to them.
Hello.
Hi. Pretty much we're just kind of here to talk about retro gaming. So here's the thing about Twitch. Everybody has a different idea of what it takes to be a successful Twitch streamer. And so here's the thing. Has anybody ever heard of the author Hunter S. Thompson? Yeah, good. I'm glad. So Hunter S. Thompson, for those of you who don't know, he got his start by writing a piece about the Kentucky Derby. But instead of going to the Kentucky Derby and just writing about the horse races, he decided to make the story instead about his drug-addled adventures and the people watching that went into going to the Kentucky Derby. And this was the birth of what they called gonzo journalism, which meant instead of the main focus on the story, the main focus being on the Kentucky Derby, instead the main focus of the story became on himself. So that is what I believe is the most interesting thing, and that's how you get people to tune into Twitch. It's not about the game you're watching, it's not about streaming the most successful game, it's about playing games and playing them in such a way that people want to come back and see how you react to the next game that's being played. For those of you who don't know, I didn't introduce myself. My name is BizSnes. I don't stream as myself on Twitch. I stream as this guy here. His name is BizSnes, and he is a boy trapped inside of a video game console. So as a real boy, he was walking through the woods and he met Death. And Death challenged him to Mortal Kombat. They picked Scorpion and he picked Sub-Zero. And well, he's not very good at video games, so he cheated Death at Mortal Kombat. He unplugged his controller from the port. And Death was so mad at him that he trapped him inside of this video game console. So I decided to create kind of a story element to it. Shraiku is really good at the charity streaming. Last year she was one of the top 100 St. Jude donators. Well, not her, but her community as a whole got her into the top 100. Baron draws Dungeons and Dragons maps and stuff like that. So there are different ways to get into Twitch that are unique and can get you a lot of attention. So, Shrai, why don't you talk a little bit about what you do with your charity streams?
Okay, so I started charity streaming back in 2015. I got into it because St. Jude wanted people to stream for them, and they were giving out prizes. I was like, cool, charity and prizes? Okay. But later on down the line, I found out that doing charity streams was more than just the prizes behind it. It was the experiences that you have, the kids that you're helping, and everything like that. Last year, I was able to raise $5,040 for St. Jude Children's Hospital with retro gaming and, cooking streams and slapping my roommate Baron in the face with a fish. And then St. Jude actually invited me out to visit the hospital this last month, and I actually got to see the kids that I was helping out doing all that, and it was an amazing experience.
And how many followers do you currently have on Twitch?
I have 1,000 followers. So
And how much money did you raise last year for St. Jude?
$5,040.
$5,040. So that's with 1,000 followers. And some people think that it takes these giant numbers to do these things, but really it takes passion and connecting to people. With the entertainment field, here's the thing: people want to say it's about numbers. I'm sure if anybody has spent any amount of time on Twitter, you have seen at least one person apply for partnership that is just like, I have all these numbers. Why didn't I get this? And you have to think about it, that this is an entertainment field. It's not about the numbers. This is like any other job. Just because you have all this experience doesn't necessarily mean that you can be a professional at it. But you can be a professional no matter what level you're at, as long as you want to be. She could think that she's a small streamer. She's not, with 1,000 people. But because she has the mentality that she is a streamer, that's how she was able to raise that much money. And, who are some of the people that you've been rated by for doing these charity streams?
So a few have been like Bloody Faster, Cooper's 515, he's another local Seattle streamer, Inexpensive Gamer, and a lot of other very large streamers.
So this is a good way to interact with larger streamers without pulling the whole oh hey, how do I how do I grow my stream and stuff like that. If you're simply surrounded by a cause, sometimes that can make all the difference when it comes to your streaming career. And here's the thing about Twitch. It is an entertainment field. And I kind of liken, if you want to be a professional streamer, you have to think you have to think of it kind of in the guise of the early 2000s and every kid that wanted to be a professional skateboarder. Just because you can get on a skateboard and do tricks doesn't mean that you're at that level of professionalism. Just because you can turn on a camera and a microphone and you think you're okay at games, that doesn't make you a professional Twitch streamer. What makes you a professional Twitch streamer is having a community around you, growing that community in a positive way, and having thoughts and ideas that aren't just about shilling yourself. It's about finding a way to make people interested in your content. Rodney Mullen was an amazing flatland skater because he simply had no access to vert ramps. So it's one of those things, if you think the thing that's keeping you from a camera is not being able, or keeping you from being a streamer is not having the best camera or the best microphone, that's not true. What's keeping you from being a good streamer is your attitude. I started off with practically nothing in my stream. I lived with my best friend of many years in an impoundment. That is where my stream started. And we lived in bunk beds, and we had to move all of our stuff to the side so that we could set up our stream. And it's just, when people see that you have that will and that love of games, that's what's going to make you a streamer. So Bear, why don't you talk a little bit about running D&D campaigns and how that can be a great way to interact with people and their communities?
I think one of the weird things about running D&D games on Twitch is you are doing something that is first personal with your friends, and then it's hey, come experience this with us. And when I stream D&D, I never stream it on my own channel because I'm normally the DM, and that takes a lot of attention, so I don't want to ignore my chat. But just because I'm playing with other streamers and other communities, I see those communities start to come over, so they know that I also stream. So when I am streaming, it slowly brings people from other communities that I connect with and know. And that also helps because then you already have a bit of a friendship with these viewers. You've seen them in your friend's chat, you talked in person, normal people, not entertainer to audience. It's let's play this game together. And I think one of the things that's great about doing small things like that, like D&D or retro gaming, is every 12-year-old with internet access is currently streaming Fortnite. And if you try and stream Fortnite or some other huge game, people are going to have to scroll through 20 pages of other streamers before they find yours. So one of the things about retro gaming is it's a smaller community, but nostalgia is really, really impactful in streaming. People, especially if it's an older game that you have never played, getting to watch somebody else experience a game for the first time is nothing short of magic. And then those vibrant, passionate communities around these games get to watch somebody do something for the first time, and that's going to get you way more attention and personality than any 1,000 other Fortnite or PUBG or whatever streamers.
So how I actually got a really good start on Twitch was, I've been streaming for about a month and a half, and then I was lucky enough to get flown to do an event at Cards Against Humanity. And on my way back from Cards Against Humanity, you guys are you all Seattle or Seattle area people? Well, I had just gotten a job at Bill Spiedel's Underground Tours as a tour guide. And, I had just gotten through my training. I was finally a tour guide. And I took these 2 weeks off, or this week off to go do this thing. And I'm going through the airport to return to Seattle, and I get 4 calls from the Underground Tours saying, hey, you missed a shift at the Underground Tours. And I'm like, well, that's impossible because I told you all that I was, on vacation for this time. And I got this job because I knew I needed a job and wasn't the affiliate program was not a thing at this point. So I was working towards it, but yeah, I was nowhere near partnership at this point. And they're like, hey, congratulations. We're not firing you, but you are suspended for 2 weeks. And it's like, what? Like, are you serious? Like, I'm suspended for 2 weeks from this job? And I was just like, fine, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna stream as much as I can, and I'm gonna start by streaming my very favorite game out there. And that game just so happens to be Metal Gear Solid, which was awesome for this weekend. But through streaming Metal Gear Solid, the Outer Heaven Network hosted me, and the Outer Heaven Network is a Twitch stream that consistently streams every single Metal Gear Solid game on repeat. And so having that foundation of Metal Gear Solid fans come in first, and really gave me that like first tiny snowball that was able to roll into those bigger numbered streams and stuff like that, and help push me towards partnership. So retro gaming is one of those things where, yeah, you're gonna have smaller communities, but you're going to have the most passionate communities. Because a lot of those people that are watching Fortnite and are watching those bigger streamers are there for that like self-indulgence of like, hey, I want that streamer to say their name. They really just want their name to be said. They really want to be acknowledged. They don't really care about the content. Whereas when you get retro gamers going on, people are like, oh man, I can't wait. Like, I'm super excited to see when they get to this part and stuff like that. Which brings us to another issue when streaming retro games, which is backseating. Backseating, for those of you who don't know, is a term that is Twitch chat, especially with older games, loves to tell you what to do, because they know, like, especially when it's a blind game like Resident Evil 2, and they've like played it a million times, and you're like stumbling around asking rhetorical questions, they will almost immediately answer those questions. Some people really hate backseating. There are Twitch channels that if it says it's a blind run and you backseat them, you will get banned from that channel. I, however, take a different approach to that. I was an improv comedian before I became a Twitch streamer. I come from like that other spectrum where I'm not just like a nerd, like I actually had a job in the entertainment industry beforehand. And so it makes it that much easier when you want things to be entertaining. I completely lost my train of thought here, because that sometimes happens. So what was I talking about? Where was I going with this? Backseating. So backseating. The way that I approach backseating, however, is that I welcome it to a point. Because when I was a kid, I didn't really have a whole lot of friends growing up, and the only way that I could entice people that were relatively my friends to come over was I would beat a game really quick and then invite them to come over to play that game as well. And because they didn't have as much time as I did to play the game, I would kind of help them through some of the harder sections of the game. And I'm also kind of an idiot, so when it comes to like games like Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, I'm just not good at it. And with improv, the whole idea is to ask for a suggestion, and then the audience becomes a part of the show, essentially. And they love seeing how that suggestion is used, and they love seeing it pay off. So if somebody helps you, or somebody like gives you advice, they will then stick around to see that advice pay off. And as somebody who has like helped people through games, that is also a great feeling as well.
I've even seen some people go so far as to implement on stream basically like Jeopardy rules. Like, you can't tell me what to do, but you can ask if I have or haven't done something yet.
Right.
Like, hey, have you tried attacking that wall to see if it's a real wall? And that's the only rule. And it just makes people engage a little bit more and think about what they're saying. So it's not just that they like, hey, attack that wall over there. Yeah, you just jump in his head and it dies. Yeah, there's nothing over there. Like, that's boring. But if you get them to think about what they're saying and say it in an interesting, creative way, it creates engagement and thoughtful engagement.
Yeah. People who lead are the best kind. And you really have to, especially when you're streaming retro games, If you want things to stay pure for your blind experience, for your first playthrough, you really have to hammer home what a rhetorical question is. Because, as a streamer, you have to keep that, kind of stream of consciousness going. And it's usually to ask the questions that you're asking yourself in your head out loud. And when people don't know what a rhetorical question is, that can make it pretty difficult.
For a while in my stream, I had a hotkey set up to a foot pedal. And anytime I asked a rhetorical question, I push this foot pedal, it activates something in my screen, or a graphic would pop up that said, rhetorical question. Rhetorical question every single time. And it only took like one stream of doing that before my writer was like, okay, I should not answer everything that he says.
Why don't we get a couple questions? Does anybody have any questions about retro streaming or anything like that? Yeah.
So you said you started in your apart pod.
Yeah, in Podment. It's essentially adult dorm rooms, 800 square feet for two grown people.
Wow, that's
It's
really
200
big.
square feet.
200 square feet?
Yeah, 800 is kind of.
That's huge.
Yeah, it gets bigger every time I tell the story. That's what she said. It was essentially adult-sized dorm rooms, and it's because I'm originally from Milwauke, Wisconsin, and I hate the Midwest. I hate it during the winter time, and I hate people's attitudes, because anytime you're excited about things, you become an egotistical jerk, as opposed to just being excited about the things that you're doing. But yeah, what are you going to ask about it?
So you started streaming retro consoles. How did you afford that, or how did you manage all your consoles and games to hook up to a PC and maintain the spider web?
So here's the thing. If you run a stream, especially a retro stream, it's a lot like owning the Millennium Falcon. It's going to break. You don't know how it's going to break, but even after you've just fixed it, it's going to break in the most creative ways possible.
And it's going to break exactly where you don't want it to.
Yeah, and it's going to, at the most inopportune moments, like when you've got front page time. It's just all of a sudden everything's going to crap out on you. It was really because of the limited space. It really was a matter of management, like knowing that, hey, a PS3, as long as it's the second generation, will stream both PS1 games and PS3 games. So boom, you only need that one system. And honestly, because of how small it was, and because I literally moved out here with 2 suitcases of stuff, it was a matter of slowly, the only reason I had to wait to play Metal Gear Solid until that first trip was because I didn't have the copy of the game out there. So it was just a matter of slowly moving things out there as it goes on. But as far as hooking up retro streaming, it's actually pretty simple. Back in the day, the way that I actually started, how I got the money to build my stream computer was not actually streaming. It was running Smash Brothers tournaments. I saw that there was no Smash Brothers tournament in Milwauke, Wisconsin. I worked at a comedy club. We had the space for it. So I found the groups on Facebook that ran the Smash Brothers community. I found them all. I got a couple people that I saw were kind of the higher ups and having people over to their house. I got them involved. I started running tournaments, and I took the door money, and I built my first stream computer through that. So you can find more creative ways to get the cash that you need to start your streaming career. And so I went all out because back in the day, Elgato had huge delay issues, but this company called Aver Media did not. And especially because I wanted to stream retro games, you either need an RGB to HD adapter to use a regular card, or I bought this thing called the Aver Media Dark Crystal, which they unfortunately no longer make. But it had both an HDMI input and then the inputs to stream retro games as well. They have made it a little bit easier. The two of us are actually partnered by Aver Media, and so since we told them that we were doing this retro convention, I was just like, we want to help start a retro career here today, so we brought the stuff that you will need to stream retro games, which is honestly two things and then the consoles. The first thing is this. This is the AverMedia Mini. This plugs in via micro USB. And then it has an HDMI in and an HDMI out. So you run an HDMI from whatever system you're using into this, and then you run it out to a TV so you have a display. AverMedia is really good though, and so you can actually just run it through whatever capture program you're using, and you should be able to play it pretty fine. But if you want to stream retro games as well, you're going to need an attachment. Like I said, you can either go to stores like Pink Gorilla. Pink Gorilla sells them in downtown Seattle, or you can buy them off of Amazon. You need an RGB to HDMI adapter, and that's what this is. AverMedia puts one out. It's called the ET111. The red, white, and yellow, like your classic video game system, whatever system you have plugs into this. There's an HDMI out on this, which runs into the capture card, and then you just run through the micro USB, that plugs into the computer, and that captures the game for you. It's as simple as that. Whoever wins it, I actually did make a video of me like opening the boxes and plugging this into my computer to set it up, and it literally took me about 6.5 minutes. And I had a GameCube running. I was gonna actually have it here. I have the GameCube in my bag, but there's not enough outlets and stuff like that in the area to set it up. But it is incredibly simple to set up all this equipment.
If anybody wants to see it, we can hook it up and everything here, just to show you how this is all hooked up and show you how easy it actually is.
Right.
So there is one other option for streaming retro games, and that's emulators.
Yeah.
The simple way to explain emulators is it's your computer running whatever game console is trying to emulate to play the game, and you basically download digital versions of the games.
It's a gray area.
It's a very gray area, depending on where the game is from legally. If you physically own a copy of the game, you can emulate it, but a lot of them are copyrighted. And Twitch hasn't yet, but there's talks about saying if you're running an emulator, you will just get banned from Twitch.
So
because there's such a weird moral gray area.
yeah, it is a gray area. They're technically allowed for speedrunning for practice, and they're technically allowed if you have all the games. You own physical copies of the game. My best suggestion is just if you're ever using one, never show it. Just never ever show it. Never show anything that indicates that you're using an emulator. Don't. It's one of those things. Just don't talk about it. Just don't talk about it, and hopefully it will be okay at least for now. But you definitely, if you have the ability to stream it using the actual hardware, that's what you want to do.
Also, emulators are picky and finicky, and
yeah, especially like the Sega CD one. It's like impossible to get running.
so it's just you can fight with something for 6 hours, or you can spend a tiny bit of money and literally just plug it in.
Yeah, unless you want to play Snatcher, and then it's like $500. Yeah.
This got discussed at one of the earlier streams. Some emulated games, as far back as SNES, have built-in DRM, so they won't function at a certain point, wasting time. But there's also a lot of modern remakes, like they port them over. Steam has all the same
Yeah.
collection. Nintendo's like, people want to play this stuff?
Yeah.
It should change.
Yeah, let's put out, 15 games on a Raspberry Pi and say we couldn't fit any more on it. But at least you have options with the, it's definitely a lot easier now with the NES Classic and the SNES Classic. And you did that nice upscale resolution as well. For those of you who want to stream PS3 games, that unfortunately is the worst currently and the most complicated.
PS4 as well. PS4 is...
PS4 is at least a little bit easier because thanks to the wonderful Windows 10 update, there's HDCP protection, which keeps it, because they don't want you, capturing Blu-rays and stuff like that. So instead of getting picture, you'll just get like a black screen with a lovely squealing sound. And it's very, very annoying. With PS4, you can simply go into the settings and turn that off, which is awesome. With the PS3, you cannot do that. The only way now, before I upgraded to Windows 10, I could actually just plug a PS3 into my internal capture card and stream it no problem. Since I've updated to Windows 10, can't do that anymore. If you want to stream a PS3, you're going to need an HDMI splitter. It is about 15 bucks online, and it splits it to 2 sources, and you have to have both sources going, because if it just recognizes that the one source is being output, it like changes the encoding within the adapter, and it will say that it's just a single output. So you have to have both inputs going, at least to start it up, to get it going. So you can thank Windows for that wonderful thing.
And basically the splitter just masks what is going on. And when your computer doesn't know what's going on, for some reason it normally allows it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's just an HDMI, it must be fine.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's why you need that for just the PS3 for some reason.
So yeah, any more questions or anything like that about retro streaming? I can give a couple more nuggets of, yeah.
So basically, if you take an older console, which has the RGB output,
Yeah.
and you get the first device that you showed off, which just gives it a conversion, no, the other one.
Yeah.
So that will give you an HDMI source that you can then just make your TV if you wish, right?
Yeah.
Or any other HDMI.
I mean, honest. So with this, how it works is it's the USB is only power on this. It will not give you any sort of output, but yeah, you would be able to plug it into, as long as you have it powered up, you would be able to then just run it into a TV. Yes.
Yeah, it's like a converter. And so you have the old component and then it has HDMI on there. So you just plug it into your TV and go.
Yep. Yeah, so you could literally, if you just wanted to use it on your HD TV, you could use it that way too. So, one more nugget of advice I can give to anybody who wants to start getting into streaming is be a fan first. Be a fan of streaming before you get into streaming. So you know kind of how communities work and you know the nuances of Twitch. The reason that I started getting the bigger streamers to hang out in my channel and talk was not because I like begged them to or asked them to. It was because I had my Twitch account for close to 2 years before I streamed on my own account for the first time. And it's one of those golden rules: never talk about streaming, in another streamer's channel. That is like rule number 1. But if you're talking about things that the streamer is excited about, that's a good way to get them noticed. If you know a streamer's into Bloodborne and you see a cool Bloodborne video, tag them in Twitter on it. The way that I got, if anybody knows who Lobos Jr. is, he's like one of the biggest Soulsborne streamers out there. The way that I got him to follow me on Twitter and eventually check out my Twitch channel was, in my channel I was playing one of the Dark Souls games and something like absolutely goofy happened. And so I just took that 15-second clip and I posted it on Twitter with, Lobos would be proud. And he liked it and followed me after that. And then I saw him pop in my channel the next time that I was streaming it. But he also knew me because I was in his channel for a year and a half before I started streaming. And it's one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't know you were a streamer. It's like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm not here to shill my own stuff in your channel. I'm here because I like watching you and I like the conversations that we're a part of. And that goes a long way. I mean, a lot of streamers don't have that entertainment side of things. They don't understand how the entertainment side of it works. And a lot of what happens in entertainment is not what you know, it's who you know. And that's kind of an unfortunate fact, but that's really how it works. So it's about networking and it's about making connections with people that are meaningful instead of, if you are the 100th person to walk up to a streamer and be like, how do I improve my stream? They're never going to remember you. They're never ever going to remember you. One of the reasons that I, decided to stream as this guy was because I didn't want to be just one more white guy yelling at his video games on Twitch. There are enough of those out there, and I wanted to do something a little bit more interesting than that. So you guys have to find something a little bit more interesting than just playing a video game. You have to find that angle. You have to find what makes it interesting for people to watch you playing these video games as opposed to watching anybody else play them.
Yeah, it's actually the way that Joe and I met was I was brought on as the team manager for a Twitch team and we were forming, and it was all character streamers, so people that stream not as themselves, but as something off-brand. I was just scrolling through games, trying to find other character streamers. You have people like Benny Fitz, Call of Cthulhu, people that have personas. And so I was just scrolling through trying to find something. I was like, I don't know, Dark Souls. And I was just scrolling through, like, yeah, white guy, girl, white guy. Was that a Super Nintendo? Scroll back up, follow the channel, contacted him, got him on the team like a week later. We met at the
third TwitchCon, yeah.
we actually ended up staying together to go Airbnb together. And then at one point I was looking to move out because I lived in Nebraska at the time. And they're like, hey, I'm looking for a roommate. I was like, I hate it here, sure, I'll move to Seattle.
And then he got hit in the face with a fish.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
Twice. She didn't get hurt the first time.
It's recorded. And well, what's even better is the fireball coming out of the stove that. Yeah, oh my god, it's so funny.
So story behind that. I'm a charity streamer. We raised money for St. Jude. They wanted us to cook a fish before we hit him in the face with it. So we raised $5,000 for St. Jude. We hit him in the face with this fish. We decided to cook it. We smell something, burn it. And we start opening up the oven, and all we hear is the fire alarm start going off. And then all of a sudden, I take out the pan from the oven, and there's like a 4-foot flame coming off. And I'm like, okay, bye. What do I do?
Yeah. Lemon oil and fish is flammable.
Yeah, fish oil.
Yeah,
and lemon juice.
fish oil and lemon juice is apparently very, very flammable.
Don't put it in the broiler.
But so the two of us are actually engaged, and we met through Twitch. We met at one of the Seattle meetups out here. So as long as you're not a creep, like it can pay off, and it is really good to be a part of a community because streaming right now is a very solo thing, and it's not going to stay that way, and it's not going to stay that way for long. And the way that I know that is because it's going to follow the same path that video games took. And if you remember video games in the early 80s, they were all, a game was designed by one person, pretty much. The entire design, the sound, the controls, what it looked like, it was all designed by one person. Pretty much the box art was done by somebody else. But the game itself was done by a single person, working on this thing, and they were working way too hard. They should have had a team of people behind them. And that's exactly what should happen with Twitch. I don't believe in streaming 8 hours. I'm not one of those people. I don't think that you should have to stream 8 hours a day to make ends meet. I come from being an entertainer. I used to be able to work for an hour, a day, and be able to make rent at the end of the month because I would make so much from these improv shows and the stuff that I was doing. My entertainment time is valuable, and it takes a lot of work to be valuable. It takes a lot of work to be entertaining, and no one can be entertaining for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, for any sort of time. And nobody, is asked to. Even if you think about talk radio programs, the longest talk radio program you're gonna see is 4 hours long. There's no reason that I should have to stream longer than a Lord of the Rings movie every day.
Like 24-hour news, you're talking about the same 6 things.
Right. And it's also, a lot of people are about having a consistent schedule, and that is a very good way to make it, but you also want to make your stream special. I'm one of those people that I want to make it seem like this is something special, and it's something that not everybody gets to. I'm not trying to be the biggest Twitch streamer out there. What I'm trying to do is have a meaningful community that everybody feels a part of, and they're a part of something special and almost kind of secret. There are people out there that want to be the Muppets. People could think that oh yeah, I want to be the Muppets with this. No, I'm going more for that Mystery Science Theater vibe, where it's Mystery Science Theater was never the biggest show on the planet, but it has some of the most passionate fans out there to the point where they had the biggest Kickstarter of all time to make sure that there were more episodes of that. And same thing with her charity stuff. It's really quality over quantity. It's not about having thousands of people watching you. It's about having the right people watching you. And you can try to appeal to the lowest common denominator, but then you're going to get the lowest common denominator. And that is fine for some people, but especially with the retro community, the fact that, you know, our age medium is thankfully scales a little bit older. You know, it's really nice to have, like, you know, those communities. It's just like, I know that I will never have the biggest Twitch community, but I know that if I play this one game, these certain people are going to show up, or these people are going to be excited about it, and that's all that I care about, because I want to be able to still have a relationship. I want to be able to know that this person is an air traffic controller. I want to know that this person, you know, is having a rough day and needs to get out of it. You know, like, I want to know all the stories behind the people in my channel. Like, I never want it to be so big that I can't have a conversation with these people anymore. And, you know, people who think like, oh man, I only have like 5 or 6 people watching me, big deal. Like, I was an improv comedian, and sometimes I had 800 people watching me, and sometimes I had 4 people watching me. And I can tell you from experience that sometimes those shows with 4 people were infinitely better than the shows where I'm playing to a giant auditorium, where half the people can't hear me, and half the people don't want to be there because they didn't want to be there. Those 4 people, man, if everybody in that show had been like, oh man, this sucks, let's not give them a show, like, they would have walked away from it feeling terrible. But we always try to give them the best experience possible. And those people go out and they tell other people, and they bring their friends, and those are the people that you want at your shows. Not just the people that got like a Groupon and show up. Like, those nights were always the worst at the comedy club. It's like, oh man, they're loud, they're you know, agitated, and that's because they're Groupon people and they expect the world. But it's like, oh man, if it's like a birthday party of 5 people and yeah, it's the middle of summer and Summerfest is going on, like, well, yeah, we could cancel the show, but then we're gonna disappoint this 10-year-old kid, you know? But instead we get to give him like his own personal show, and he gets to come up on stage for as many games as he wants, and that's a special experience for that person.
Well, it's also something else to keep in mind is like, oh man, I've only got 5 viewers for 3 hours. You're entertaining 5 people for 3 hours.
That's awesome.
Like, think about being at a party and being the only person being entertaining for 3 hours. That's still amazing, and it's awesome. And just engage them, get them to be part of the game with you.
Yeah.
I just started streaming 2 weeks ago. I was mad at me, like, really started this week. Really got into watching YouTube videos. I was like, I really want to do that. And make stuff for him. And I actually was like, getting 3 or 4 viewers. I was like, oh, how do I make you happy? And so I played Dragon's Dogma, and I decided, what's the voice I used to make? Really good. Ah, yes, Dragon Game. Dragon's Dogma. Come back here. I'm gonna kick your ass. And the people were losing it. They loved it. I was like, this is working. It's working.
That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Just put yourself, like, I had a friend who started streaming literally because he was stuck in a video game. And the easiest way to show his friends so that he could help him through that section of the video game was he started streaming it. He's like, wait, so I go left up here? Okay, I go left, and then right. Oh, hey, other person, and other person, and oh, there's a lot of people like that. And it kind of snowballs from there. But originally he was just stuck in a video game, and it was the easiest way to show his friend. So yeah, just stream it. Like,
Yeah.
try it. It's not for everyone. Like, some people try it and they hate it.
Yeah.
But those people are few and far between, in my experience.
Yeah.
How do you guys manage your marketing strategy or marketing your yourselves onto Twitch?
Usually social media is a big one. Twitter is big for me. I know he's been using Instagram a lot more, but it's usually tweeting out your stream that you're going live. You know, schedules are really helpful too, but it's not needed whatsoever. So.
There are programs you can get out there that are okay. Things like if this, then that. So when you go live, it'll automatically tweet for you and post to whatever. Those aren't great. I would just give the routine of you start your stream. I know not everybody does this, but have a like starting soon. And whether you're giving people 5 minutes to filter in, have a routine of say Twitter, Facebook, Discord, whatever. Just do those 3 things, then start your stream. Whenever you're done with them, could be 5 minutes, could be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Get in the habit of doing all of the things that you're active on. Like I'm active on Twitter and Discord, so those are the 2 that I always do.
So marketing for me, one of the big things, there are a bunch of other character streamers, but most of them are computer programs. And so I really wanted to hit home that, I'm not doing all this work as this puppet to simply for people to think that it's a computer program. So I am told, when it comes to taking pictures, totally shameless. Like anytime you can get a picture with anybody, take the opportunity. Ask somebody for a picture if you can get it. Because taking pictures and people seeing you goofing off with these other people, it's like, oh man, you're hanging out with this person, follow. That can work sometimes. And then, like I said, it's not just about the going live tweets and stuff like that. If you want to, you kind of have to sell yourself without selling yourself. You can post clips to Twitch streamers. I wouldn't recommend that. What I would recommend is hanging out in that, if you like a Twitch streamer and stuff like that, seeing what they're passionate about, seeing what they're into. And then if you ever find anything that they might be into, if there's a cool video that surfaces, or whenever they would find a Bloodborne boss, I would tweet at certain people, be like, hey, check this out, what do you think about it? That's a really good way to just engage people without, being a shill and being, totally, you have to be passionate about things and people will notice that. And if you're just passionate about it yourself, that's not going to fly. But if you are actually passionate about the games that you care about and the communities that you're a part of, they will start, slowly seeping over. Somebody will see you in, a Twitch chat, but then they'll see your Twitter, so they'll follow you on Twitter, and then they'll see that you're live, and then, oh man, that person shows up in your Twitch channel instead of theirs one day. Not that you're poaching or anything like that.
There's also some really interesting features coming out. Discord now has an option where, as long as you're recruiting online in Discord, if you open OBS Studio or Stream Elements, it changes your I'm online color from green to purple, showing that you are currently streaming. I've had 20 people come to my channel and be like, I didn't know you streamed, but I saw on Discord that you were streaming. I was like, yeah, I just don't talk about other people's channels because that's a Twitch.
Rude.
Yeah.
Never do that, ever.
Never ever.
It's a good way
If
to
they
stay
ask
involved.
you if you're a streamer, feel free to answer it, but never join somebody else's channel and be like, hey, I'm a streamer.
Yeah.
Or hey, I'm leaving now to go stream.
It's like going into a burger place and be like, hey guys, I own a pizza place across the street. I know you guys are eating burgers, but we need pizza.
And being a character and having a bunch of other characters come up, it's really easy for people to think oh man, they're rivals and stuff like that. You are not in competition with anyone else on Twitch. You're not. You're not stealing any viewers. We are all in competition against every other source of media out there. If people are watching Twitch, it's a good thing because they're not watching anything else. So that is winning in my book. So, I've had people reach out to me who have done similar things, being like, hey, do you ever feel like this person stole your bit? And I'm just like, wait, you think I'm upset that somebody else figured out to do a puppet show on Twitch? Do you think I'm do you think I created puppet shows? There are way, more important things in the world to get upset about, and because of that attitude, and because everybody has that attitude, especially the characters, it's really a rising tide raises all boats kind of scenario, or that's how I'm trying to make Twitch. It takes a village. It takes a community, it takes more than one person to make a channel successful.
Yeah, so another way you can market yourself, I know this was talked about in a previous panel to this one, Living Lyric was actually the one talking about it, but you could go to Seattle Online Broadcasters Association meetups. It's downtown in GameWorks every second Saturday of the month at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's a really good way to meet people and stuff like that. That's how I met her. That's how I met him. It's how I made a lot of my friends that are around this area as well. So you can go there and hang out with other streamers, bounce ideas off people. That's how some of my charity streams got started too, is hey, let's do this thing.
Together.
Yeah. So.
We are stronger together than we are apart. Streaming does not need to be a solo activity. I truly believe that the best way to stream is with a group of people hanging out, having a good time together. That the whole, when I click that start broadcast button, I'm not clicking it to make money. I'm clicking it to invite people over to my internet couch to hang out and play video games with me and have a conversation.
The other thing about, just jumping back to the SOBA meetups, by the way, I've had people say oh, I go to that, but I'm not a streamer.
Go anyway.
So anyway,
Yeah.
You're just a part of the community. Yeah.
Streamer and viewer, we're there as friends and people that like the same nerdy stuff. Like, go hang out with people that are like you.
It's always great. I mean, like-minded people will always find a way to gather, and the internet has made that infinitely easier for weirdos like us. And I know that you're all weirdos because you're here at a retro convention in Renton. Yeah, we mean it in the most loving way because we are weirdos too. But I mean, we're family. The TwitchCon works very different than the other conventions that are out there because it really is more of a family reunion more than anything else. It's not a time to shill your wares. It's a time to connect with the people that you have made all these connections with over the year. Like the best thing about it for me is getting to hear the people's voices that are just text. Because then, it's a lot less lonely when you can, hear somebody's voice in your head and have it be their actual voice when they're chatting. And every year I get to meet more and more of the people that hang out in all of our channels, and it's such a cool thing to see, like just the incredible melting pot of people that call Twitch a home, and the people that you wouldn't expect to be into certain things, hanging out and doing it and having a good time together. Like it's a very special place. And right now, because we still haven't hit like that crazy saturation point, it's still something very, very special to be a part of. It is a very, I've always wanted to do it like improv as a video art, but it's never worked. But now it will because of how low the latency is between me asking a question and when I can get an answer from chat, and that's really exciting. Like interactive entertainment is the future. Like the movie popped up on Netflix not too long ago. That's a choose your own adventure. The fact that people can watch a cooking show, and instead of just like passively watching, they can actively be a part of it and ask those questions that they are desperately need answered that they sometimes don't answer on those cooking shows, and get a response. Like the more people catch on to that, the bigger this platform is going to get. And it's not going to be about having those thousands of people. It's going to be about having the right community that gets what you're into, as opposed to just when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. So instead of trying to appeal to the mass audience, pick the stuff that you really love and focus on that, because people will understand that, people will see that, instead of like, if you just try to do what another streamer does, like if you decide like, oh man, the thing that's gonna get me views is now having a weird voice changer. That's not how it works. Like people see one thing work, and like it's like this cascade of everybody trying that afterwards. It's like, no, the reason that it worked was because there was nothing like that before. And the reason it's not working for you is because it's now played out. And you're not the person who thought of it, and people know that. So it's like if you take the time to personalize it and make it your own stuff, that's gonna go a long way.
So we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody up here
Yeah, if anybody needs to grab a raffle.
needs a raffle ticket, come up, grab one. We're giving away AverMedia capture card. So if anybody wants to get into streaming, this is the product that you need.
Yeah. And yeah, I know you two have been asking a bunch of questions, but does anybody else have any questions or anything that they would like to talk about?
Yeah, the latency, how does that affect your content by any chance?
The low latency is great. It's awesome simply because I react and they react. And as an improviser, that's super awesome and that's super cool, and it makes the lulls a lot easier.
It used to be a lot worse before.
Yeah.
So
It used to be like
before-
30, 45 seconds.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
used to be a lot worse, but
What is it now?
it's like
3 to 4 seconds
3
depending on your
seconds,
setup.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, you ask a question, 1, 2, 3, okay, now you have that. So yeah, 3, 5. But yeah,
Because I used to do the streaming on PlayStation,
yeah.
and the latency was there. But I have a friend hey, how long did it take before you received my video? Oh,
Yeah.
about 20 seconds.
I think it was like this PlayStation or like the Xbox streaming services that they do not put the bandwidth into those servers that they need.
Yeah.
Twitch, it's like nothing.
Xbox got a lot better because they now have Mixer, which is like a Twitch competition.
Yeah.
I've streamed on both, and Mixer used to be way better than Twitch. But Twitch is now up their game to the point where they're almost better at this point. So,
So are they working as where like Milwauke and Seattle, or is it always?
They're trying to get slower.
I'm guessing so. I have
It's
no
gonna be
idea.
impossible to remove it altogether just because of like, sometimes you're broadcasting to England, yeah. The internet just doesn't work that way. It's a series of tubes, sometimes it gets clogged with hamsters and it's very, very nonsensical, so,
I was
yeah.
watching streaming England last week,
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way this is like less than 4
Yeah,
seconds.
geographically,
Yeah.
the further you are away, it's gonna be longer.
It
but
makes it
it's-
more
it's-
difficult, yeah.
It's still like almost nothing. It's basically at this point, how long does it take them to type out the sentence they're saying?
Yeah. And yeah, it sucks now that like in some streams I'm like trying to write out my witty remarks and because I'm borderline dyslexic it takes like 45 seconds and they're like already moved on to the next joke and I'm just like, damn it, I missed my chance to be funny. We have time for one more question though, one more question if anybody has anything.
Anybody want to know about streaming in general, or retro games, or
Yeah.
In 5 minutes, I'm gonna have 20 questions.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
You said about your character, do you plan on branching out into further characters, adding more characters to your roster?
Yeah, there's a talking Sega Genesis named Jean. It's going to be voiced by her. So Death, did I tell you the backstory? Did I tell you they cheated Death? The Super Nintendo cheated Death at Mortal Kombat. So Baron plays Death as a character, and we're doing a show called Cinema Sickle, which is Death has challenged me to his bucket list. And so if I can complete his bucket list, I might be able to win a rematch in the game. So yeah, it's really fun coming up with a story and a narrative. And you know, that's one of those things too. I would much rather take 6 hours offline to like animate stuff. I just made like a brand new moon base for him as well. And then streamed for like 4 hours on a Friday. Because I don't want it to just be me playing a video game. I want it to be more of a show. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a follow-up to his question and what you were talking about earlier, that comparing to 80s, when one person was writing the whole game.
Yeah.
So in video games, we saw that going in the direction, and there are whole teams or companies of dozens or hundreds of people doing a single game.
Right.
And on another end, when we go back to entertainment, we see if we take a look at late night show with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
There is one presenter, and there is a whole team behind that presenter who comes up with the script and everything else. So which of these two directions you see are going? So is there still going to be one face in front of the camera with a lot of backup, or a lot of people in one stream?
I think currently it's probably going to be one person with. We've already seen some Twitch streamers, like full-time streamers, that have thousands of viewers at any given time. They've started companies and they have like people that make them graphics for every game that they play. And so they're slowly getting more and more of the thing. So right now it seems like it's going to be more one person with a team, but I've also seen a couple people very successfully do 20 people on a stream and then a team behind that.
As the culture, you know, because you know, right now everybody thinks of Twitch as just a video game streaming website. It is an interactive entertainment website. There is a place for everything on Twitch. There's Lego building, there's cooking, there is just walking down the street with your dog. There is no bad way. So as far as like the solo stuff, I absolutely think it will continue. But it'll be the people that are professionals. You know, like the people that, you know, if they're playing PUBG or Fortnite, you know, you're gonna watch them and you know they're gonna always kick butt at that game. Same thing with a lot of, you know, speedrunners. You know, people will always watch the speedrunners. But if you want to be entertaining and you're not good at a video game, it's gonna start taking more and more people. And it's honestly just easier. Like, honestly, I've always wanted to do like a daily show kind of show, but it's like, do you know how hard that is to like write, you know, even a half hour's worth of material is, you know, it can take a week to write that much. And, you know, doing all of that by yourself, doing the prep of all the Photoshop work, then writing it, and then recording it, and then editing it, you know, it's absolutely exhausting for one person to do. So as people slowly start, you know, we've seen a couple groups, like there was a group in Seattle called Squad Says that tried to do a big show, and we're not at that point yet, but I truly believe that as far as interactive entertainment, Twitch is going to help lead the way. Like Twitch plays Pokemon. for example. Anytime we can get people playing a game together like that, I think stuff like that is going to be the future of both video gaming and entertainment. I think the more that you can combine the two and make it where you're not passively watching, but making both the viewer and the player a part of the same experience is going to be the future of games.
All right, so we have a minute left, so let's do this raffle.